Now before I dive deeper into this, here's one important thing I have to note. Keeping this course up to date is very important to me and always was very important to me. Now Angular 2 was in beta or release candidate status for a long time, and the majority of the videos in this course were recorded using the release candidate version, which is very close to the actually released version. And this is why all the code you learn is 100% up to date, which of course is great, and otherwise I would have updated it. But the CLI had some changes, and I want to highlight these changes compared to what you're going to see in the next video, so that you're not getting confused, but instead are able to follow along smoothly. So let's have a look. Let's view it side by side. This on the right is the old folder structure, on the left the new one. It's simply because the CLI changed and moved some files and folders around, but most of these changes are behind the scenes and we didn't work with these files and folders. So I'm just showing it to clear up some possible confusion. The left folder structure is the same in the sense that we're still working in the source app folder. We already had this folder in the old structure. All the other folders like public or temp or typings were folders we didn't have to work in this course anyways. So it's no problem that they're gone. The dist folder is also still existent in the left version, but not always created. Now this is the folder structure change. You also see that the files somehow changed. We get some other files, if I close my source folder here, we get some other files down here. Now that's mainly just because things moved around where we configure our tests and so on. But the important thing is the Angular CLI JSON file still is there. This always was and is the file where you configure the CLI. So no changes which we need to take care about there. Now back in the source folder, you'll recognize that we get this new environments folder and that we also have some new files here. Now that simply changed because the CLI changed the way how they built the project, but again we don't have to work with any of the files which got added here besides the styles.css file if you want to add some global styles to your project. All the other files like test.ts or polyfill.ts are files you don't have to work with and therefore we can ignore them. So the meat of our app in the app folder is the same. The only differences we got here are that the environment.ts file no longer exists, but we got this new environments folder which kind of replaces it, and then the app module. And this is an important change I want to highlight. In all the other videos of this course, the concept of having this app module to bundle the pieces of your application or to tell Angular 2 what pieces your application has didn't exist in this way. Prior to this approach, we had this directives array here added to a component, and each component had to tell Angular 2 on its own, hey, I want to use other and another component. Now we don't have that anymore in the recent version of Angular 2. As you can see, there is no directives array in my app component. Instead, we have this global registry here in the declarations array of my app module. And this is the one and only change you need to make throughout the rest of this course. Whenever I add something to the directives array here, add it to the declarations array in the app module file instead. You don't need to import the components we're using here and at the top of the app component file. As you can see, I don't have these imports here. You don't need to add, and you shouldn't, and you must not add the directives array, it won't work anymore. Instead, use all the components and directives and pipes as you will learn you want to use them and add them in the declarations array. This is the one and only change you need to make throughout the rest of this course, and I will occasionally come back and remind you of that. With that, the structure is exactly the same and you are able to follow along just as well as you did before, since the code you're going to learn is exactly the same.